Hi everybody, it's Crazy. It's Monday and it's time for the UPBGE video of the week. Now, before I get started, gotta give a shout out to my trusted because you guys rock. To my crazy fans, I love you guys. Now, we're up to episode number 75, and last week we ended off with the materials panel. Now, we did bring up the one right before that. Give me a second, let me go back to my beginning on materials and textures, how using GLSL works better than multi-texture. So if you didn't get to see that video, go back to the next one, okay? Or go back to the previous one. But we're going to go ahead and continue on with the material panel, which is this little panel right here, okay? All right, so in GLSL 1 blend, that's where I'm at right now, okay? If you don't know where that's at, go into your files where you got the book at and go to the files, go to chapter 5, and you'll see GLSL1.blend. You're going to open that one up and you're going to find yourself looking at Susie. Okay, you'll see the material panel on the right side of the 3D viewport, which is this one right here, okay? In the demo setup, the material attached to the floor is shown by default. Okay, so this is the one by default. Recall that this panel was already discussed briefly in chapter 2. So if you don't remember what we were talking about by using the textures and how it's set up, go back to chapter 2. Okay, I might put one up here somewhere. If I don't, it's okay. Alright, so as an artist, just remember that the game engine supports a smaller subset of features found in the regular material panel. Okay, so I'm in UPBGE. A lot of times when you start up, if you don't have it saved as the Blender game engine or UPBGE, then you might want to save it as a blank file, so that way you'll pop into it every time. And as I showed y'all last week, let's go into the end panel. If you go down to shading, if I can find it, there it is, shading, you notice that there is no choice for multi-textural GLSL because of the fact that it's already preset in. Okay, so make sure you have it set for UPBGE. If you're using 0.2.5, 0.2.0 will say Blender Game Engine. Okay, it'll say Game Engine where UPBGE is. Okay, but since they took it out, you know, the guys that up at UPBGE just named it UPBGE. So don't freak out. It's not a completely different setup. It's the same setup. Okay, I'm just doing it in 2.5 because I'm doing some extra work in 0.2.0. So I'm using 2.5 just to use it for this one. Okay. Advanced shading features such as ray traced reflections and refractions and subsurface scattering are not available in the game engine. There's add-ons you can put in that can actually put those in now, but you'll have to look at a different video. If I can find it, I'll put it in the description or something, or update the description. So they are hidden from the material panel when Blender Game is selected as the active render engine. Okay, material management. The very top section of the material panel lets you manage the material data blocks. Okay, so that's up here. Yeah. Okay, so this allows you to do the material blocks, material data blocks. No, I'm at material, not textures. I'm sorry, material. Okay, this right here, the more you add, the more you get. Okay. Okay, so the box shows, since each object can have multiple materials, the box shows a list of all the materials attached to the active object. Selected materials are highlighted in blue. Okay, so right now the floor is highlighted, so the floor is highlighted in blue. Right now we really don't have anything in here, you know, nothing at all. Okay, so to create the first material for an object, in the 3D view window, select an object without a material. For example, the monkey in GLSL 1. So select good old Susie here, and you'll notice that there is no material selected for her. In a material panel below material slot list, okay, that's this right here. This is the slot list. Okay, click on the plus okay, which is this little guy right here, or click new, you know, whichever one you think is. Icon to create a new material for the object. So you hit new. Since the object has no material, by default, the new material will be applied to the entire object. So to the entire object here, this material will be set to it. So in other words, you don't have to go about it and set it. It just automatically defaults for you. And that's no matter what object you set on. I can do it with a cube or anything else. Okay? Multi-material objects. If the object has an existing material, you can create another material and assign the new materials to part of the mesh as follows. In the 3D view, select the object, which we have the object selected. In the material panel below this material slot list, which is this one right here, click the plus new. Okay, so you're going to go here to create, oh, that was the base material. Okay, so we already did that. In the material panel, click the plus icon on the right of the material slots. That's this one right here. You're going to click this one, okay, to create another material slot, followed by clicking on the plus new. So you're going to hit plus new on that as well. See, so now you have two materials on one object, okay. You will assign this material to a selected part of the object. Change the color of the newly created material to green just so that you can tell the materials apart. So what we're going to do on the newly created, so that one's this one. We're going to change that one to green. Okay. The easiest way you can do it, you can either pick the green color, or you can just slide this one all the way up and slide those two down, because that gives you straight green. Okay. Now, I've also noticed in a lot of videos that some look darker than the others. Trust me, it will look lighter or darker on yours depending upon your monitor. Okay, so don't freak out if yours isn't perfectly the green of mine. Okay. Okay. In the 3D view, enter edit mode. So we're going to go to edit mode by hitting the tab key. Okay, and let's go ahead and paint her eyes green. That's gonna be fun. If you ever want to get into like real close like I just did, you hit the period and that will zoom you into whatever you're selected on, which is actually the whole of Susie. But you can do something like this and hit the period, and now it zooms in even more. Okay, so I'm going to use the circle key just so I can color her eyes. Now, there are other ways to do this where you're not really fighting with it and it's perfect. But hey, I'm doing it just for a video so that way y'all can see what this is. So please forgive me if it's not perfect, but I am a person who likes to have it nice and pretty, even though sometimes my artwork isn't that great. Don't get me with a pencil, it would be really bad. Okay, now I'm just using the circle select tool. Okay, do you want to select that one, right? No. Need to get rid of that one. And if you use the mouse wheel, you will get a lot more bang for your buck when doing this stuff. There we go. Okay, so, oops, hang on. So C means circle. Easiest way to remember it. You ever want to remember how to do the C? C, circle, B, box. Okay. And Control Z to remove it. Alright, so now we've got our selected. Okay, it says go into edit mode for the object using tab. Select all the vertices that you want to be assigned to the new material, which we did her eyes. Okay. With the new material highlighted, press the assign button to apply the new material to the selected part. And what it's talking about is this assign button right here. When you assign it, boop, her eyes turn green. Ooh. Okay, so now if I hit tab, she has green eyes. Okay, very simple stuff. You know, believe it or not, it's harder than what it looks, right? Not really. But when you're first learning, it's a little harder to do. Okay, so let's continue on. Below the material slot list is the control for the selected material. So it's talking about all this right here. Okay, below this. Okay, you can and should rename the material to be more descriptive. So I can say green eyes. Green eyes, okay? Or you can just put green or whatever. Alright, so this will help you immediately in a large project, since it is usually not very obvious what material .001 is. Okay, orange is better. Orange plastic is even better. And matte yellowish orange soft plastic with small bumps is overdoing it. So you want to keep it simple, but you want to keep it descriptive as well. So since I did green eyes, and I don't want to have a space in there because spaces cause problems. But now I know that that will be Susie's green eyes. Okay, and if you wanted to paint the whites of the eyes, you would create another material, and then you would select new, you would have it white, you know, in this case we do it a little bit more, okay, and then you would paint her eyes by going in a tab and then doing that with that as well. You'd paint all these, okay, but we're not going to do that. So I just wanted to show you that, so that way you know that you can add more than one material, which is awesome. Okay, a material data block can be shared by multiple objects. Clicking on the miniature material icon labeled as Browse ID Data, I don't know where that's at, will bring up a list of all the existing materials within the current Blender file. Oh, okay, so I guess you would click on this, and this gives you all the materials that are added. Okay, we got the floor, we got her green eyes, a regular material, and another material. Okay, so we're not going to pick any one of those. We picked the green, that's what we want. Okay. Alright, to assign an object to an existing material, simply select the material data block from the list. So, let's say we want to change the floor to Susie's eyes. Okay, we can easily come over here, drop that down, and poof. You know, so any object can have this color and this material set. Okay, you know, say, oh well, I want to keep it the floor. Okay, so you can keep it the floor. You know, say you want to make the floor a pretty blue. Okay, you know, you can also make her eyes blue. Okay, by clicking on her, going over to green eyes. Okay, and switching to floor. Now her eyes are blue. Okay, so this is just some of the stuff that you can do using just materials. There is nodes that you can use, but we'll get into that later. Okay. The concept of data block is very important in Blender. It allows you to effectively organize all the assets into a logical hierarchy. Data blocks are discussed in detail in Chapter 2. Okay, so if you don't know, it should be up here somewhere. Maybe. Okay, object versus data. You might have noticed another pull-down menu beside the new material panel. This link selector controls whether the material is linked to the object or the object data, also known as mesh. This distinction is practically negligible for single objects, but if you have an object with shared mesh in the scene, the difference becomes important. Okay, what they're talking about is this right here, fake user and data. I believe that's what it said. Yeah, the object data, which is this right here. Okay, you can have it just for the object, you can have it for the data. Okay, so that's what that is. When a material is linked to a mesh and not the object, duplicating the object using Alt-D will create a copy of the object that shares the same mesh as the original object, will result in the material being shared across both objects. So in other words, if I Alt-D? Yeah. If I Alt-D'd Sue here, and I hit, let's see, grab X. Okay, now you see both of them share the same. Now if I changed this one's eyes to blue, not going to happen. It's going to do both. Okay, so that's what you got to remember. Okay, even if I did Shift D And on the x-axis, it still shares the same one. Okay? But this one will have a completely separate material. Okay? So Alt, same all the way around. Okay? Shift, changes. Okay. Alright. On the other hand, if the material is linked to an object, duplicating the object with Alt-D will result in the material being linked directly to the object. This way, you can assign a different material to each object even if they share the same mesh. Okay, you can also do that with Shift-D. Okay, slide him over. That's irritating me. Okay, there we go. So, I mean, you can click to this one, and this is Alt-D. This is Shift-D. Okay. See, how far are we in? Ooh, we've been in it for a while. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave it off here. Okay, I try to do about, anywhere from about 10 to 15 minutes. And so what we're gonna leave off with is page number 13, material data block linked to the mesh. Okay, we'll go deeper into that next week, but just remember, Alt-D copies everything. Shift-D does not. Okay, you can actually change material. Okay, so this is kind of linking the objects. All right, so let me, whoops, got that one. There we go. That's what I was trying to go to. Okay, so again, that is page 13. Okay, material data block linked to the mesh is where we're leaving off. So next week we'll continue on from there. I'll make sure I save this one so that way I can bring it up. I'm going to save it as, and it's got a 2 on there. I'm going to put -1. So that way I can remember it. And I'll save it so that way y'all can have it for next week. So if you've been following along and you're doing exactly what I'm doing, just save it as -1 and you should be good. Okay? So till next week.